Intero, hook. They said freedom was coming. But no one told them it would arrive drenched in blood. One midnight in August 1947, as the world celebrated the birth of two nations, 1 million souls vanished into silence. No bombs. No armies. Just trains full of corpses. Just neighbors turning on neighbors. Just a line, drawn in ink, that tore a subcontinent apart. This is the story of how the promise of independence became the night of betrayal. The story of India's partition. The beginning of the end. For 200 years, the British Empire ruled over the jewel of its crown, India. A land older than empire itself. But by the 1940s, that empire was collapsing. War had drained its strength. Rebellion burned in its colonies. And in India, the dream of freedom was no longer a whisper, it was a storm. Yet within that dream, two visions were taking shape, both powerful, both unyielding. One, led by Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru, believed India must stay one, a home for every faith. The other, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, demanded a separate homeland for Muslims, a nation called Pakistan. What began as a political debate would soon ignite the deadliest migration in human history. The storm gathers. In 1942, Gandhi called upon the British to quit India. The cry spread across villages and cities like wildfire. But instead of freedom, came bullets and prisons. Tens of thousands were jailed. The empire tightened its grip, and something inside the people broke. Then came hunger. In 1943, Bengal starved while British warehouses overflowed with grain. 3 million died, not by war, but by neglect. The famine proved one truth: the empire's heart was hollow. India was done kneeling. But as independence drew closer, unity began to crumble. Every speech, every rally, every newspaper headline deepened the divide between Hindus and Muslims. And then, in August 1946, the spark ignited. Calcutta, the first blood. It began with a call for direct action. A day meant to show the strength of the demand for Pakistan. But in Calcutta, the day turned into a nightmare. The city exploded in riots. For 4 days, the streets ran red. Over 4,000 dead. Tens of thousands wounded. The British stood by, watching the city destroy itself. India's two nations, once neighbors, were now enemies. And the countdown to partition had begun. The last viceroy. In March 1947, Lord Louis Mountbatten arrived in Delhi. The last viceroy of British India. His orders: end the empire, and leave. But leave fast. Mountbatten found a land divided beyond repair. Gandhi pleaded for peace. Nehru demanded freedom now. Jinnah warned there could be no compromise. The British decided to cut and run. A lawyer from London, Sir Cyril Radcliffe, was flown in to draw the new borders. He had never seen India before. He was given 5 weeks to divide a subcontinent of 400 million people. He sat in a sweltering Delhi room with maps, census charts, and no understanding of the lives he was about to destroy. With a stroke of a pen, he sliced through Punjab, Bengal, and history itself. The midnight of freedom. On the night of August 14, 1947, the clock struck midnight. In Karachi, Muhammad Ali Jinnah became the first Governor-General of Pakistan. The streets roared with celebration. Fireworks lit the sky. A few hours later, in Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru stood before the Constituent Assembly. His voice trembled with pride as he said, "At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom." The chamber erupted in applause. But outside those walls, freedom had already turned to fear. Because no one knew where the new border was. Radcliffe's maps were still sealed in boxes. Entire villages didn't know whether they belonged to India or Pakistan. And when the truth arrived, it came too late. The migration. 14 million people, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, began to move. The largest migration in human history. Families that had lived together for generations packed what they could and left everything else behind. Some walked hundreds of miles under the sun. Some fled by bullock cart. Some boarded trains that would never arrive. Those trains became symbols of horror. Carriages rolled across Punjab, silent, blood-soaked, filled with the dead. When they stopped, only ghosts stepped out. In village after village, mobs rose in revenge. Men who once shared bread now shared blood. Women were taken. Children vanished. The land screamed, but the new nations were too busy celebrating to hear. The price of freedom. By the time the borders were sealed, more than 1 million were dead. 1 million dreams burned to ashes. Homes looted, temples burned, mosques destroyed. The land that had fought together for freedom had been broken by its own victory. And yet, even in the darkness, there were sparks of humanity. A Sikh farmer hiding his Muslim neighbors. A Muslim family protecting a Hindu child. Acts of mercy that defied madness. Those few souls proved that the line drawn by men could not divide the human heart. The aftermath. Mountbatten left within a year. Gandhi was assassinated by a Hindu extremist. Jinnah, frail and ill, would die barely a year after Pakistan's birth. The leaders were gone, but the scars remained, carved into soil, memory, and silence. For generations, people would ask, was partition inevitable? Could the bloodshed have been stopped? No one ever found the answer. But one truth endures: freedom, when built on fear, comes at a terrible cost. Closing narration. The border still stands, invisible from the sky, but carved deep into hearts. It began as a line on a map. It became a line of fire. And though time has moved on, the echoes of that midnight still whisper across the plains of Punjab, carried by the wind, and by the ghosts of those who never crossed over. Music fades to silence. White heavy checkmark END, the line of fire. The partition of India.